Welcome to the video series for the 2025 Mystery Masquerade. This event has 8 participants in it, who are split into 2 groups of 4, and each group plays 3 round-robin games, with the winner of each group meeting in the finals. However, the players themselves are anonymous, and the public gets to watch and vote for who they think each player is. I was one of the 8 players selected for the event, and so you won't be seeing this here on my channel until after all of the public reveals for the entire event are concluded. My secret identity for this event is Feral Troll, which I find pretty funny given how often I advocate for the poor feral troll getting a variance tax in Delta pricing. This event is a pod draft format, where each player brings 3 pods, or half armies, and then the 6 pods are combined into one pool, and there is a drafting process. For this version, there are some strikes involved, where each player has an opportunity to ban one army from the pool. I'll put the full draft process up on screen so that you can pause the video to read it in more detail if you want to. For my pods, I went with some cross synergies in the form of orcs. My first pod is 2 squads of Blade Gruts with Narak. The second is 2 squads of Death Chasers with 3 Swag Riders. And the third is 2 squads of Arrogruts with Ice Troll and a Dumatuf. The Blade Grut pod has cross synergy in the form of Narak boosting the other 2. And the Death Chasers build also has synergy with the Arrogruts pod, as the Swags also bond with the Arrogruts from that pool. A cross-bonding synergy like this can be nice, as you'll generally be able to accomplish getting some level of synergy if you end up with 2 of your own armies. However, of course that also means your opponent has access to that same synergy, which is why I went with some softer synergies here, as opposed to some more obviously strong ones. For round 1, I'm facing someone known only to me as Ornak for now. I'm recording these videos as I go, so I don't know who Ornak is yet. I'll make some guesses throughout, though, and we'll see how right or wrong I end up being. Their armies that they brought are Goblin Slashers X3 with Kogo, Cutters X3 with a Dumatuf, and Arrogruts X3 with Swag X3. So we have a nice little Orc and Goblin grouping here between all of our pods. Looking at just their pods first, it seems like they went with the strategy of everything having a counter draft option, where the Cutters counter the Arrogruts, the Slashers counter the Cutters, and the Arrogruts counter the Slashers. I could be wrong, but that's my initial interpretation of what they were going for, at least. In terms of interactions between our pods, we both have an Arrogruts pod, and there are 2 Swag Rider pods, so there's some potentially very strong combos there. But the Cutters are also still out there, which does mitigate that a little bit. I think there's 3 potential first picks here: Cutters, Blades, and the Arrogruts with Swag Riders. Cutters are quite strong into Arrogruts, and while they're a little bit weaker into Blades and Slashers, if you take them first, you can then ban one of those from your opponent, and you block them from taking the Arrogruts Swag pod. So they probably end up with Blades and Death Chasers, and then you get the better Arrogrut pod last. While the Arrogrut combo is quite strong, I'm not sure you actually want to pick it with the first overall pick, as your opponent can then take Cutters before you have a ban option. I think that the Blades are fairly good into Cutters specifically, and I also think Narak is just super strong overall in these pods because of how much synergy Narak has with whatever you end up with that second pick later on. So I think taking Blades first has some merit to it as well there. The problem is, if you take Blades, your opponent then has the possibility of getting both the Cutters and either the best Arrogruts pod or the only Arrogruts pod if you've banned the better one, and then that doesn't leave you with a ton of great options for your last pick. They've already got Arrogruts to counter your Blades, and they've also got the strong Cutters pod to go with it. And so I don't really love the way that that ends up going if you take Blades first. I think that Cutters are quite strong, but that you don't want to ban them because your opponent can then just first pick the better Arrogruts pod freely. So I think that I want to pick first and take the Cutters if they're available, or the Arrogruts Swag pod if the Cutters have been banned. So that's the plan. If I have the choice, I will choose to pick first and go with that route. If I'm forced to pick second, I won't ban anything. In terms of guessing who my opponent is, my current leading guess is Kevin Dola. I know Kevin played this event last year, and I think it's likely he's playing it again, and I've seen him run Aerogret pods a lot in this type of a format. Cleon also told me recently that he had played a game against Kevin with a Slasher's army in it, so it's possible that there's some link there as well. We'll see if I can get any better guesses going based on how the game plays out, but that's my current leading thought at least. Let's hop on into the game and see how it goes. I win the dice off and choose to pick first. Ornak then bans my Death Chasers build, which definitely surprised me. I think this makes the first pick of Cutters even better, though, as I'll be able to then ban either Blades or Slashers before Ornak's second pick, so I stick with that plan and take Cutters. Ornak then takes Blades, which I definitely think is the right follow-up, and I then ban the Slashers, which forces Ornak to play an Aerogruts build into me, and Ornak then takes the better of the two Aerogruts pods, theirs, and I'm left with my Aerogruts pod. So the final armies are me with 3x Cutters, 2x Aerogruts, Ice Troll, and 2 Dumatufs versus Ornak with Narak, 2x Blades, 3x Aerogruts, and 3x Swogs. Ornak then elects to place first, which surprised me a bit too, as I don't see the benefit of placing first here with a symmetric map, but I was happy to go second. For Ornak's final placement, I see the Aerogret pod largely put together down in the bottom right corner of the map, with the blades spread out. I use the spread out blades to block them off somewhat from being able to get into the battle quickly, blocking 2 entirely with my Dumatufs, which seems like the best value that I'll be able to get out of them this game, and then mostly protect my Aerogruts in a similar manner to what Ornak did, same with Ice Troll, and then fill in the gaps with Cutters. I left this spot open, as I wanted those blades to have to double develop before they could get any attacks in, and I put all my order markers on Cutters. This is an absurdly massive initiative roll for a round 1, and I see Ornak only manage a 6, but then I utterly flub it with a 5 of my own and lose this opening in it, and see 3 order markers on Blades, which makes sense, as that's the better opening wave to fight my Cutters with. Narak moves into the center and kills the Cutter on height. I scurry 2 Cutters up next to Narak, but I think this was a mistake, and I should have sent them here instead, as this would have limited how many kills Blades can get better. I considered scurrying the one next to Sola Astrid onto the glyph, but I actually kind of want a Blade to take it, so that a Cutter can then get height on him the next turn. Blades then roll around and use the first attack on Sola Astrid with the glyph. I back up the Cutter next to the Northern Blade and one in the middle, as that will only give Blades one more kill this turn. Blades get that kill, and I scurry the other 2 potential targets out of harm's way. My 1 is on Cutters, and I have a huge opportunity here if I can kill most of these Blades, as the others are way out of the battle, so I go for that as best I can, getting height on Sola Astrid and triple engaging the middle 2 Blades, hoping to kill 3 of the 4 forward ones, but I only end up getting 2 of them. Narak then slightly pivots and kills another Cutter, and I scurry my Cutters in a way that no Blade can get next to more than 1 of them, so there's a max of 1 more kill this turn on Cutters. The 2 far Blades take a bath, trying to reach the battle, and I block the first attack, but die to the second one. But because they're out of attacks, I actually can scurry into engagement safely, making it easier to mob and get kills on my next turn. My 2 is on Cutters, and I triple engage the 1 in my start zone and the 1 by Narak, and send 1 Cutter into my opponent's start zone trying to kill a Swag Rider, but I miss all 4 attacks in a pretty brutal turn. If I'd gotten both Blades here, only Narak would have gotten an attack off on the following turn. Back to Ornak, and Narak does get his kill, and I scurry to engage Narak more, hoping to mob and kill him on my order marker 3, and Blades get 1 kill before I scurry again, and the last blade is stuck attacking an Arrowgret, but I block it. Defense! For my order marker 3, because I can't get to the blades on height well, I decided to go for Narak, surrounding him with 4 cutters, because if I can kill him now, then they won't have bonding, and I'll lose less cutters next round. Unfortunately, I only get 2 wounds on him, not 3, and all of my cutters remained locked down going into the next round. Going into round 2, and my order markers are kinda hard. I want to get as much value out of cutters as possible, but if I lose initiative, they're just gonna get crunched first. I end up deciding that I need to risk it and hope I win initiative, because if I don't get value out of these cutters, I think I just lose regardless. So I put order markers 1, 2, and X on cutters with the 3 on Arrowgrets. I do get the switch, which gives me a chance, and I see 3 order markers on blades with 1 on Arrowgrets. So the relevant question is the 3 on blades or Arrowgrets? But my cutters are pretty locked down for now. I do get Narak on the first attack, but miss the other 2 into a blade and a swag. Order marker 1 is blades, who elect to stay on height, but they miss all of their attacks, and somehow 0 cutters die this turn. Defense? Cutters are still pretty locked down, but I pivot 1 up to level 2 and manage to get both possible Blade Gret kills, and miss the swag again. A blade now comes back to the start zone to deal with that rebellious little cutter, and the others stay on height. However, the start zone cutter blocks it, and the heighted shots miss entirely. Defense! My order marker 3 is on Arrowgrets, because I couldn't have predicted this miracle in a million years, and I develop Ice Troll, but then hit back-to-back Frenzies, and get him all the way up to the level 3 spot and kill the Blade Gret. Arrowgrets develop and get 1 2v2 on the stranded blade, killing it. I was expecting the order marker 3 to be on Arrowgrets, but it's actually on blades, and there's only 2 left, and 1 is still stuck behind the Dumatuf. The other does manage to kill a cutter, though. What a round. Somehow I still have 3 cutters on the board, which feels impossibly lucky, after blades missed basically everything the whole round. I end up doing a 2-2 order marker split for round 3, with the 1 and the X on cutters, and the 2 and 3 on Arrowgrets. I wanted to get some value out of cutters, especially if I won initiative, as they could have mobbed the Arrowgrets in the start zone and really put me ahead with 3 to 4 kills there. However, I lose this initiative, and Ornak correctly guesses all of my order markers in the chat. A Swag and 3 Arrowgrets move up to the level 2 height, and kills 1 cutter and puts 1 wound on Ice Troll. I scurry 1 cutter around the south, so I'll be able to engage all 3 that are left. My 1 is cutters, and I engage the Arrowgret line to prevent them from getting past me easily, and the last one takes the low ground shadow space. They only get 1 Arrowgret kill, though. Another Swag now develops, killing the low cutter, but I elect not to scurry, leaving those 2 in place to help protect the Ice Troll. Ornak goes for him anyways, though, bringing up 3 new Arrowgrets to low ground and hitting him 3 times, just barely killing him with exactly 3 wounds here before he has a chance to begin his healing process. My 2 is on Arrowgrets, but they have no bonder left. I send 3 to height and target Swags, getting 1 kill. The final Swag Rider comes in, but whiffs, and only 1 of the Arrowgret attacks goes through. My 3 is on Arrowgrets, and my chance to win involves killing Swags and then getting the initiative switch, so I play for that, with 1 Arrowgret taking Sola Astrid, where it'll still have height on an Arrowgret in low ground shadow, and 2 others taking height on Swags. I use Sola Astrid on the first Swag, but miss it, but then do kill a Swag with the second attack, and miss the attack on the Arrowgret. Going into round 4, my order markers are hard again. I need the early order markers on Arrowgrets for their kill potential, but the question of my latter order markers is a little tricky. I end up deciding to attempt to fake where my order marker 3 is by putting 1, 2, and X on Arrowgruts and the 3 on Cutters, hoping that Ornak will try to clear Arrowgruts first before focusing on the Cutters at all. I win the initiative and see 3 order markers on Arrowgruts and have a perfect turn, killing the last Swag while using Sola Astrid and then 2 Arrowgruts. Massive initiative switch there for me, as everything goes right. Ornak's Arrowgruts take height, but I block twice with 1 out of 1 shields and they get no kills. Defense! Yeah, I'm in the process of luck boxing this comeback pretty hard right now. My 2 is Arrowgruts, and I retreat all of them to height, hoping that it will look like they have the order marker 3-2, and manage another 3-figure kill turn. Ornak's Arrowgruts spread out, getting the kill on Sola Astrid, but missing the other attack up into an Arrowgrat. The fake worked, as Ornak ignored my Cutters, and they both get height on Arrowgruts here, getting 1 kill. Ornak's Arrowgruts take 2 shots, but the Cutter blocks the first one, and the second one misses. Interesting order markers again here going into round 5. Similar to before, having order markers on Arrowgruts is better than elsewhere, as I have more of them left, but I also don't want to put 3 order markers on them, as it makes it too easy to target them mid-round. I end up with 1 and 2 on Arrowgruts, the 3 on Dumatuf, and the X on Cutters, hoping Ornak actually targets the Cutters this time, and I win the initiative. In the theme of this comeback, my unsupported Arrowgruts manage 3 kills here, getting both of Ornak's Arrowgruts and a blade. Ornak's 1 is on blades though, and the last blade comes forward and kills an Arrowgrat on height. My 2 is on Arrowgruts, and I double engage that blade, blocking it from getting through because I know my order marker 3 is on the Dumatuf, and I want one of them to be able to reach that blade wherever it goes. But that ends up not being necessary, as Arrowgruts kill that blade now, ending the game. Holy hell, I got lucky in this one. In round 1, pretty much everything went wrong, but after that, approximately 100% of the things went right for me, including a ton of blanks on 2 and 3 attack dice from Ornak, and an absurd number of 1-for-1 blocks from Cutters and Arrowgruts on defense. Here's the final stats from this one, which paints a pretty accurate picture of how well my dice luck ran this game. Now, who did I play? Who is the mastermind behind the secret identity of Ornak? Great question, and I'm not sure. My official guess after this game was IHA, in part because IHA had posted on Discord earlier that day that he might get his OHS semifinals game in that night, so maybe it had to wait until after this game was done? Not sure. I don't think it was Kevin anymore, though, based on some of the in-game decisions and the dialogue that we had, but that could have been a super great fake-out, so who knows. Looking forward to finding out who it was, though, and I start out 1-0 in the round-robin stage of this event.